I am with Chef Alana Peckham, Chopped Chef, winner of, is it Chopped Canada?
Chopped Canada.
It's like a tongue twister for me saying that. Chopped Canada, congratulations again. We said it before, but we'll still work on that momentum.
Thank you.
Now listen, you are with me today in October and we are cooking something nice and warm to get us all nice and cozy for the change of weather. What is it that you're making?
A seasonal sugar pumpkin soup.
Now, sugar pumpkin. I've never cooked with pumpkin before. I don't think a lot of people do. Is it hard? Is it difficult?
It's not as hard as you would think. I mean, it's not as intimidating. A sugar pumpkin is smaller than a regular pumpkin. It's a little bit sweeter in flavor, which is why it makes for a great soup squash.
Now, is there a big difference in flavor and textures between squash and pumpkin?
Pumpkin generally is going to have a little bit more of a water content.
Okay.
Certain squashes are a bit drier inside than others. Japanese pumpkin, the kabocha, is quite dry on the inside versus a regular North American pumpkin.
I lived in Japan. I've never even heard of a kabocha.
They look like a pumpkin, but they're all green.
Got it. So, okay, there you go. So now I've learned a lot of pumpkin. So where do we start?
So what we do is we start with our butternut squash, we're using a butternut squash for this one because of the fact that I want to show you that it is a versatile recipe. While it's a sugar pumpkin soup recipe, you can use any squash you like.
Okay.
So simply take whichever squash you're using, split it lengthwise.
Look at me, see?
Good save.
I'm not allowed in the kitchen.
But you would take your squash, you would split it lengthwise.
Yes.
Expose the center, scoop out the seeds that are in the cavity, whichever the cavity is. Salt and oil the cut side, put it down on your parchment paper pan.
Okay.
Add a bit more oil on top and pop it into an oven that's at about 375 to 400 degrees Fahrenheit and leave it for 45 minutes to an hour.
The hardest part is actually cutting the pumpkin or the squash.
Yes, so make sure that when you are cutting it that you obviously hold your knife firmly.
Yep.
And don't just put your hand on the other side. Put a towel over it first and then press down on it. That way, if you do slip, your knife is going to come up on your towel, not on your hand.
Good idea. Good, so this is in the oven, it's roasting.
In the oven, it's roasting. You're going to let it go for, like I said, 45 minutes to an hour. It's going to get this kind of a wrinkly brown look on the skin.
Okay.
Simply push it. If it gives, the squash is ready to go.
Fantastic.
And so what we've got heating here is we've got some oil.
Okay.
We're going to drop a couple of garlic cloves into it.
Now you're an Alligga chef, and you're cooking with how much oil is in here?
The recipe calls for a cup of oil.
Which seems like a lot.
Which for any standard recipe, especially a soup recipe, is quite a bit. I mean, again, this recipe is going to feed about 8 to 10 people, depending on if it's an appetizer or an entree. And so if it is an entree and it's feeding only 8, you're getting about 2 tablespoons worth of that flax oil.
And this time of year is a great time to have soup as an entree, and what you're putting in it makes it a very full soup.
Makes it a very hearty soup.
A lot of garlic. You're also using...
We've got some celery there.
Okay.
And so what I'll do is you want to take your celery and always curl your hand and your fingers, grip your knife properly, and you just want to thinly slice that celery.
Nails back?
Nails back. You don't want to chop those off or your fingers.
So you're using how much celery in this recipe?
This recipe will call for 2 stalks of celery.
Okay. And then you're also going
right to the end.
Your celery, and then you have, how much carrot goes into that?
2 carrots go into it, and it's going to be roughly 1 medium to large size onion.
Okay.
And so what we can do is we've got the onion right here. And so just to cut that, peel it, take the tops and the bottoms off for the roots.
So this is probably the longest part of the entire process of making the soup, is just the
chopping,
the prep, right?
The prep, yeah. And then the next part's going to be letting your onions and your garlic caramelize in the pot, which is why you want to get that squash in the oven first. If that's the first step you do, the rest of it can take its time.
So pretty much when the squash is ready, you're
probably ready to go. That's right, yeah. And the reason why you're roasting the squash separately is to get that caramelization of the squash sugars.
Okay.
And then you add it all back in. And so we've also got carrot. And so peel the carrot first, and then same thing.
I hear some chefs say leave the carrot skin on. You don't?
I don't like to leave it on myself. You could leave it on, but make sure you wash and scrub it really well.
Good organic vegetables.
That's right.
Okay.
And so now that we've got our veggies prepped,
good,
we can add the onions next.
I'll put the onions in. So can you just maybe show the camera? It's really bubbling, but it's not like your typical oil where it looks like it's burning. You've got like almost like a butter frothing.
It's like a froth going on, that's right. And so if you add the onions, it'll start to froth even more.
Nice. And you shouldn't be, I guess, afraid of seeing smoke coming off of the Alligga flax oil?
Well, we don't want to smoke any oil, really. It does have a high smoke point, so you can, but a lot of people often misinterpret smoke and steam.
Okay.
So when you're actually cooking with a food item in there, that's actually steam coming up.
Okay.
Because it's the moisture hitting the oil and evaporating the water.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Good.
And so what you would do is you would take this, you would cook it down until it's nice and caramelized. Then you would add your other 2 veggies.
Okay, so here's the celery.
And
here's
the
your
carrots. Perfect.
The smell is absolutely amazing. Let's talk about some of the reasons why you like to cook with Alligga flax oil.
I like to cook with Alligga flax oil mainly for its high smoke point and its health qualities.
Okay.
So it's got a great source of omega-3s, which we definitely need in our diets.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Now you're cooking this for how long, Alana?
We're gonna cook this. This will probably take at least 15 to 20 minutes to get down nice and soft, nice and colored. Then we can add our spices to that afterwards.
Okay. Which spices are we using today?
We've got bay leaves, ground cinnamon, ground nutmeg, and there is a pinch of salt in there as well.
Now, when you're pureeing it later on, are we leaving the bay leaf in?
We're gonna leave it in,
You are,
and then
okay.
just puree it up.
Got
That's
it.
right.
I would have actually taken it out. There you go.
Which you could if you'd like, if you don't want that piece, or you can strain it out afterwards.
I guess if you're using a good mixer, it's no problem.
That's right. And if you prefer to cook with whole spices, you can do that as well. Just make sure you tie them up into a little sachet.
What's that little bag called?
A bouquet garni.
Bouquet garni.
Yeah.
There you go. I feel so French today.
And so from here, like I said, what you would do is you would cook it down.
Yes.
Add your white wine.
Want to do that now?
Sure. Yeah,
Okay.
you would reduce that as well.
Okay, no, just
Take
kidding.
a sip.
You ready?
Ready.
Great. And that's just deglazing your pan, is that?
That's right, getting all that caramelization from the vegetables off the side and the bottom of the pots. Let that reduce down to intensify the wine flavor so that it doesn't taste like raw wine,
Okay.
but that it will taste like a cooked wine.
Is there a wrong wine?
Not a wrong wine, no, it's whatever you're willing to drink
Okay,
you can
good.
throw in there.
What are we doing next?
And so from here, it would be the stock and then the cooked squash. And so we do have a final product, but yeah, you can throw that in as well.
Okay.
Perfect.
It smells so good, Alana.
And then from there, so we do have some of the cooked squash right here.
Can you show me how you're going to take that out of there as well? Show me half of that. Is that okay?
Yeah, bring it onto the
Okay,
cutting
so
board
here.
here. And so
I'll give you the spoon
once it
if you
is
like.
cooked, it will kind of just separate.
Easily, okay.
And you can take a spoon, you can scoop this flesh out.
Yep.
Or you could even just peel it back.
Wonderful.
And then once you peel that off, that goes right in there.
Okay, so there's only just a very thin layer of skin that's on this part here.
When it's raw, it seems tougher. When it's cooked, it does thin out a
Yeah,
bit.
okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Thank you. And
What
then
am I doing next?
Now we're gonna remove this so that you can bring over the finished product. I will grab a blender.
Wonderful. I'll take this over here. Could you have it at this point just in, I mean, you have like these whole pieces of pumpkin. Would you ever serve it this way or no?
You could, if you're happy to have more of a rustic style soup,
Yeah.
then just break up the squash bits a bit more. That way you're actually getting chunks in your soup.
And I'm not even really seeing the oil separating, which I thought I
Not
possibly
too much,
would
right?
be. Yeah, it's not
it
bad at all.
emulsifies in quite well. But if you do want it to be a bit more refined, you would just throw it into a blender.
Now you've been doing lots of traveling recently, Alana, with Alligga. Where's the last stop you've been?
Well, end of summer was Hong Kong, and just recently was Toronto.
There you go.
Exactly.
So we're going to blend that up now.
We're going to blend that up next. So before we do, though, we would have added some maple syrup from the recipe into
so
this
I'll
as
give
well.
this to you here then.
Perfect. But we're not going to, we'll put some in here.
You want a little bit of butter as well. Do you need to have butter if someone's, following maybe a lower cholesterol diet?
Not at all. You can pop that right in.
Okay. So that's not a huge important part?
Not at all. It adds to the mouthfeel. It does add a bit of
She's a
richness.
chef. She loves butter. She can't help herself.
I'm going to love butter, absolutely. And
Okay.
when I make pureed soups, I love to finish with butter.
Sure, great.
But if you are on a dietary restriction, don't worry about it.
Perfect.
And then we're just going to turn it on.
So a good blender is going to really break down, like you said, the bay leaf and all the other spices as well.
That's right, yeah. And then so from here, if you want it really smooth, let the blender go longer.
Okay.
If you don't mind it a little chunky, puree it a little less. If you want it ultra smooth after it's pureed in here,
Yes.
run it through a strainer.
Okay.
But if
Which
not-
I wouldn't do. I would want to have those pieces and really actually
There would
taste it.
a little bit of a bite to the mouth.
Texture's not too bad
exactly.
either.
And then so right into the bowl. And then you've got some parsley and toasted pumpkin seeds there for
Wonderful.
garnish.
Now, I always throw it around the plate and you tell me not to do that. But I just, for some reason, feel so chef-like when I do it that way. Any salt? We're done with that?
We're done with the salt.
A little bit of roasted pumpkin
A
seeds?
little roasted pumpkin seeds.
Now, do these seeds come actually out of these pumpkins?
If you have the time to roast the seeds, absolutely. Use them from the pumpkin.
Wonderful.
But these ones are not.
Beautiful finished products. So Chef Alana Peckham, you're on Twitter, which is shocking to me because she hasn't been on forever. What's your Twitter handle?
At Alana Peckham.
And of course the Alligga website for the information on this recipe.
Alligga.com.
Alligga.com or ours, which is Health, Wellness, Lifestyle TV. Thanks so much, Alana.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Try this. Amazing. Hired.